Hello, and welcome back to the Ask the Color Expert podcast. Today's special guest is Tracey Napotnik. She is the founder of the Pennsylvania Beauty Show, which is, when you're listening to this, is coming up very, very soon. So lean in, pay attention, and make sure that you're not too late to get a ticket to this phenomenal event. So welcome, Tracey.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we were just chatting right before I pushed record about how huge of a project doing something like this is. And this is not Tracey's first rodeo. She took over well, I'll let you tell the story, but there was a long history of hair shows at this venue in Pennsylvania. As someone who is from Pennsylvania and spent 40 years of my career working in Pennsylvania, we didn't have very many shows. So kudos to you for bringing it back to the Pennsylvania area. And with time, Tracey has gotten more and more huge educators that are finding out about the show, realizing how much our industry needs this right now in the state that it's in. And of course, we're going to chat about that. During COVID, I believe it was the first full digital hair event, all on the computer, all virtual. And it was a huge project. And I was alone in doing that. It was myself and my daughter. And I know that you pretty much do this yourself too. Yes, you have help, but you're not a huge company with 25 or more employees. You're pretty much bootstrapping this whole project. And as someone who's been in your shoes, I salute you. I bow down to you. And the fact that you're doing it more than once.
I know, crazy. All right, so
So,
do you want me to tell you how
yeah,
it
talk about
started?
the why. I want to hear the why, because to take on something like this, it's easy to just show up at the premiere shows and, do some networking with people and chit chat with people and take advantage of something that the very big staff of Premiere puts on, or IBS or ISSE, any of the other shows. They've had 20 years plus under their belt. It's like a rinse and repeat thing. This is not rinse and repeat, and that is not a small project. But what is your driving force behind doing something like this, not once, but doing it, rinsing and repeating and continuing to do it, knowing, and I want to talk about everything that's going on in your life right now, and the many reasons you should not be doing it, but you keep persevering. So let's talk about that.
Well, thank you. Okay, so I think the pandemic changed everybody's life, right? Like everybody
Mhm.
pivoted somewhere. And I definitely pivoted because I always was a salon owner that had different educators come into my salon faithfully. I was also going into other salons to help teach their team. We rotated between salon owners because we all know sometimes you can tell your own team, your own family something, but they'll hear it differently from somewhere else. And I highly believe that and respect that and agree with it. So once the week COVID shut down, I just felt so lost, like a lot of other people. And I said, man, I keep seeing all these people doing Zoom everywhere. But if I didn't know to listen to that channel because I wasn't in that little network, how would I have ever gotten this amazing information? And so we started, I remember calling you, called Gino, called all these different people. And I said, hey, I kind of want to develop this company called salontraining.com, which is a directory. I didn't know where it was going. I just knew that we needed to do something. By the time we built it, everybody was already back in their salon. So it's like, oh, okay, we just spent a whole year building something. And then during that time, I said, man, there's so many beautiful educators that are coming into this network. I think I posted something about a show, like I love education or something. And someone's like, oh, do you know if Seven Springs is coming back? And my head started spinning. I'm like, oh, you know what? So for those of you that don't know what Seven Springs Mountain Resort it was a really amazing show in Pennsylvania for many years. And I remember, I think my first show was in 1993. It was my very first hair show. And I remember sitting in the classroom, and at the time I wanted to go to cosmetology school. It was my first year, and I was like, I just wanted to go just to learn how to braid my sister's hair or something. I didn't really know that you actually do this for a job, or a career. And that hair show changed my entire life because I was like, this is fabulous. Look at all this really cool stuff on stage and what people are doing and the appearances they're changing for people. So it was life changing for me to watch this industry like what it was. And so fast forward when I decided, like, hey, you know what? We haven't had anything like that in Pennsylvania. I'm constantly at the shows too and traveling all over, Florida, Chicago, New York. And I said, why don't we do this? So I remember calling Seven Springs and I talked to the one lady and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a hair show here. Can I have someone to walk me through and just discuss? And she goes, Tracy, I don't know who you are, but I'm really glad you called. And I said, oh, why is that? She said, because literally all the time, every year, we still have people call and say, hey, is there a hair show in Pennsylvania? She said, it's been over 2 decades, over 20 some years. There has been no shows and we still get phone
Oh,
calls.
wow.
Like, all right, that was like ding ding. Okay, we need to figure this out. And just, I think more importantly, another reason that I did it was because I ended up through the years calling friends of mine that own salons and talking to stylists wherever I'd meet them. And I would say, do you know how much you make per hour? I'm just curious. And zero stylists ever gave me an answer of what they make per hour. They always said, I don't know, I get commission. I get 40% commission, 50% commission. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, you, all other industries know what they're making per hour. So education is huge for me. Like, we should be knowing what we make and we should be striving to get higher. And so the other reason, this is kind of like a couple different reasons, but the last reason is I remember going to a hair show one time and I had two businesses, two salons. I wasn't married. I was trying to do everything, pay all the bills and the mortgages and the stuff like that. And I remember sitting in a classroom, tears running down my face, because every time the guy would say, are you tired of not making any money? Are you tired of your team not making any money? And every single time that he said something, I was like this, and I could just felt myself sobbing. Aren't you tired of that? Aren't you tired of like not having enough, money at the end of the month? And I was like, yep, every single thing he says. So I tell this story often because it's the honest to God's truth. I remember going up and handing them my credit card and saying, I know I need to be with whatever class you're talking about, but I don't know if there's going to be, I don't even know if this is going to work. My credit card is probably maxed. I don't know. I didn't even know if I was going to have enough gas to get home from that show that year. I didn't know if I was going to have lunch money to eat. I just knew that I just loved education and I know how it helps. That decision to go to that show and the decision to go to extra education and to be with someone that advanced further than, I was in, changed completely everything about my entire world. Because when I went there, it was all talking about just how to create yourself higher paychecks behind the chair, and one thing led to another. And being that I couldn't afford it the first time, I ended up taking that 3 different times. And then I also went back and hired a coach and took other programs, and then I started listening to Tony Robbins and all these different companies, that would, I'm like, wow, this stuff is really cool. So Inspiring Champions, Lauren was the class I was talking about, Lauren Gartland. And then since then, there's been many more, but like programs like that made me realize if I'm going back into my hometown, I'm not a competitive person at all when it comes to a salon right beside me. I'm like, hey, let's all help. I'm competitive against myself and my team, of course, and stuff like that, but not against another salon. And I think that is what made me really look back and say, like, man, my salon started making a lot more money. I started making a lot more money, and I'm still seeing people not make a good living per hour. So why don't we just have something here, because we need it as people in Pennsylvania and surrounding areas. The more times you can get to education and implement it, you can't just go and just take a class and never do anything. You have to implement it, and that can be life changing. And that's exactly what happened. So, and my husband is going to be mowing right outside of my window.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like music or a train. I can't tell. I
Oh,
can't tell what
sorry.
it is.
I was telling her right before we jumped on, I was going to be in my office today at the salon, and had said, "Oh yeah, there's a birthday party booked in that kind of space." So for the day, so I'm here at
Well,
my
I am not one of those podcast hosts that expects perfection ever, because people have dogs, people have kids, people have, UPS guys coming to their door, and that just makes it all part of the fun of the
Yep.
chat. Because it really, and it's funny because when you ask people to be a guest on your podcast, they immediately get this, like they're taking a test, this like anxiousness of, can you send me a list of questions you're going to ask? And can you tell me more about it? And I'm like, if you ever listen to my podcast, you'll know there is no list of questions. There is no Oprah-ism of putting you on the spot, asking you, horrible Barbara Walters questions that like really make you uncomfortable. It's always just a conversation. And I never know what direction it's going to go in. I know that I want to get to know the person more. I want to get to know what they want to talk about. And it just kind of goes, in that direction. And it was important to me to get you on here now because as someone who has hosted events, what shocks me is most people don't decide to go until the week before. Like I am such a planner. When I know I'm going to something, I have my flight right away, I have my hotel right away. I want to make sure that all my ducks are in a row before I go. But it has bit me in the butt a few times because the longer ahead you plan, the more things can come up in between. So it is not too late to go to Tracey's event. And we were just chatting about some of the people that are there this year, like Nick Arojo. I've asked Nick 17 ways to Wednesday to be part of any of my events. And he is so busy and so booked and has so many, balls in the air. So, you know, Jesse Skittrell is going to be there. He's amazing with corrective color and other things, but especially corrective color. You have the Wilsons, who are near and dear to my heart. They were in both of my revival events, and I could not be more grateful to both of them. It's funny. Did you ever hear the? I think it was John DeJulius. It was John DeJulius. So he wrote Secret Service. He's a champion for our industry. He's an excellent speaker. And he said whenever he wanted people that were hard to get to be part of one of his events, he would call the person that was hard to get. So for me, Sam Villa was really hard. I was never able to get him. So if for an example, you would call Sam Villa and say, "Hey, Sam, you know, Gino, Nicorojo, the Wilsons, Vivian McKinder, you name all these people that you haven't even asked to be in your event yet." And you say, they're all on board. They're all coming. So we're just waiting on you. We would love for you to join us. And they're like, "Oh, they're people that they've worked with before. They're familiar names." And they say yes. And then you call those people and say, "Hey, Vivian, we have Sam Villa in the garage."
Oh
I
my,
was like, "Oh, that is such a gamble, but such a great idea,"
oh,
because as you know, Tracey, who's Tracey Napotnik? Who's Elaine Travis? We don't have the kind of trump card that these people who've been teaching in the industry for 25 years do, but we do have the passion for sharing and for getting people together. And we both thrive on being a gatherer. Like, I am not the most talented person on stage doing a demonstration, but I am good at getting people that I know need the thing to the thing and making sure that they're getting everything that they need. I love the gathering part. Is that something that fuels you as well?
absolutely. Yes. When you said about some of these people, a lot of these people that it started with actually Gino Stampora. I remember calling him and saying, "Hey, I want to do a show. Do you remember?" Because he was the very first person that I saw in that classroom in 1993 that I was telling you about. And I remember my
Wow.
teacher saying, "Go and see this guy named Gino," and I was like, "Okay." So that once I did, he's like, "Oh, I remember Seven Springs," and then I remember working backstage with the Paul Mitchell crew one time in my career, and I called some of them and then it just, like you said, it just kind of spiraled into that. So I know some Paul Mitchell people are teaching some color. Joyco's coming and teaching color. Um, like you said, Nicorosia, Milkshake. There's Hair Toppers, Malibu Sea. There is so many beautiful people. And I have to say, like, the thing that I like about this show the most, more than anything, it is so education driven. I love hair shows. I love shopping. I love education. I love the networking. I love all of it. But the very first year that we did it, I literally called all these people and said, "I have no idea if this is going to work. I'm as honest as it can be. Like, I don't pull punches. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to get people there, but I really think it's a good idea. Do you think you would back me on this? Do you think I'd do it?" And we tried it. We had like 3,000 people our first time. We had people that were really excited to come. We had vendors that said they made more money at this little show than they ever did at the big shows, and I love the big shows, but because there wasn't so much, and so we're like, okay, now what do the attendees think? Because if the vendors do well, we have shows to run off. If our vendors don't do well, you know this, you're done, because they're not going to come back, and then they're going to tell one person, another person. So what happened is they told everybody they did really well, and then more people signed up for the second year and the third year. But when we surveyed the attendees, we said, what did you like and what didn't you like? Of course, the first time it was like our signage wasn't big enough outside the classroom. And I 100% agreed. I'm like, you know what? That's right. I took everything that they said. I'm like, yep. There was nothing that anybody put that I didn't say, that's absolutely right. Let's change it. Um, and so whenever they said, like, what do you like? They said they absolutely loved the education. They said that the only thing they said about the education they didn't like was there was too many to choose from. And I was like, oh, and that came
Mm.
up quite a bit. They're like, I'm kind of irritated because I didn't know which ones to take. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing. We're not changing, that. We actually did change one thing this year. So because everybody wants to do all the classes and there's no time to get to the vendor floor some years, we did space it out where we have 2 hours on Sunday where it's just your lunch and shopping, so that you don't have to feel like,
Nice.
oh, I'm going to miss someone's class. I can actually do this. And then the Sunday evening party, everybody likes a good party, right? So that was really fun. I got to say this really quick. So last year, many years ago, they had male dancers or something at the party and stuff. I was too young. I didn't go to, of course, that kind of stuff. So last year we said, you know what, let's do a little skit. So at the evening party, I had my brother-in-law and his friends, and they dressed up like, they all have beer bellies now and stuff, and they dressed up with wigs and canes and walkers and stuff. And I said, I have a special announcement for the party tonight. For a lot of you guys that used to come to this show, and I know a lot of you guys were used to, the male dancers that you might have seen back then the same ones wanted to come back because they missed you. And then of course they did this funny little thing and stuff. But this year we said, you know what, we're gonna even step it up. We have an improv company coming in from Philadelphia. I guess they're really good comedians, and they're going to be doing skits about the hair, like, or about the beauty industry. I'm like, oh, that's going to be great. So that's going
I
to be
used to
fun.
joke with, I went to Italy with Alpha Parv, and I joked with the higher ups there. I wasn't an educator yet. I was still working in the salon and owning my salon, and loved all things education. And I was trying to get into the teaching space some way to stand out, because they want you to do the schlep around to the salons with the color chart and the samples, and do the PK classes, and pay you like $50 for an entire day. Like, you don't make any money. And I would joke with them, and I said, I just want to open for the big headliner. I don't want to be the headliner doing the actual hair. I want to talk about the humorous side of the industry, because it's always so negative. Like, especially Tracey, you and I are both in a million different Facebook forums where people are doing nothing but shaming clients, shaming each other, negativity across the board. Like, I just find myself in such a mood when I get off of there. I have to be on there because I'm there providing information and helping people with color. But if I didn't have to be on there, I would completely go off of social media right now. So
I've thought
I said,
about it.
I want to talk about like the fun part of it and the humor of it and the joy that you can have if you have the right mindset in our industry. But it's like this spiral, even with hair shows, like people will go, and like I've traveled with people to shows, and all they're worried about is where are they going to go get a drink. If you've seen the bar, like I taught at Premier Orlando probably the past 7 years in a row. And there's a bar at 10 a.m. that has a line 30 people deep at the
Wow.
show. And I'm like, why are you here? Like, if you're here for a mimosa, just leave. Like, go get mimosas at a restaurant. Why would you fly to Florida, pay for a hotel, and do all those things and then not be serious about your education? And then you have all the people that have the rolling suitcases that hit your ankles, that they're only there for the tchotchkes and the deals on the show floor. And they run you over with their suitcase, and they don't go to a single class. And I'll follow up afterwards. I'll say, how was the show? Oh, I got feather earrings. I got a temporary tattoo. I got hair chalk, like all this stuff that like my 20-year-old niece would love to do. But like, what did you do to move the needle forward? And I have not had the pleasure of being at your show, because it's always, May is my birthday, and I always have a million plans in May. But I promise I will get there.
Happy
But
birthday.
what I've heard about that was people walked away with tangible, usable things that they can move the needle forward with their income. Just like you said, not only finding out what you're earning per hour, but raising that amount. You have people talking about financial things and how to do your pricing and when and how to raise your prices. I went to a show, oh God, I had to be in my early 30s, and Donald Scolari woke me up the way that Gino and other people woke you up, where I was like, oh, wow. He gave this equation on how to price your color that I had never heard before. And I still use it when I teach today. And I say this came from Donald Scolari, and it was 25 years ago, and the number should probably be higher. But the number that he gave me 25 years ago, people are still below that number now, all those years later. And it's just, it's crazy how slow to adapt what's new, what's different. People get into this like autopilot cruise, oh, I did it in 1991 and it worked for me then and I'm not changing.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people are really stubborn about online booking. They're terrified of it. They're walking around with, a little calendar in their purse or a book with a pencil. And I'm like, no shame if you're using a book with a pencil, but you know, to be able to have a client book when you're asleep. I wake up in the morning and I have 5 appointments that I didn't have the night before because it's available online. That, when you talk to my son, and I'm sure your kids, they say they won't deal with somebody that they can't book online. They don't want to be back and forth with a million phone calls and messages and all those things.
I agree. I am one of those. My kids are in elementary school right now because I started really, really, really late. So, but yes, that is something that is, we have not done online booking yet ourselves for clients, but that is something that we are looking at actually and doing. But we just switched softwares too, and we absolutely love it because the girls can see a lot more of their numbers and their goals. Where before we were able to book online ourselves, but not the client wasn't. So we are actually looking at. So I'm glad you brought that up because it's people are afraid of change for everything. Like it seems like they get it, like people that are very used to just doing the same thing. I hear it all the time too, where I hear from salon owners, well, I'm not going to pay for my team to get any education. And that can be two different ways. Like people do want to work for people that are going to give them some education. I highly believe that. I see it in every day. Like I worked for a salon, they say, and I never got any education. And I would ask them, did you get education yourself? Well, no. Well, then you're part of the problem as well. Like you have to have initiative too. And then I hear some other people like, I've worked at this particular salon and I have done 5 shows myself and I've bought my own tickets. And the salon owner says, no, I'll never pay for your education. There has to be a nice mix in there, to do something like that. So I'm really glad that you brought up about the education is important. It shows. And we have found that it is really 3 reasons why people go. And you've nailed all 3 of them. They go to socialize, which is one of the reasons. They go to shop. And at this show, I was never really going to bring in a pros discount center because I'm like, I don't really want it to be about shopping. I want it to be about education. But I also listened to the attendees. When we did those surveys, they said I really missed not having a discount place and stuff like that. Our show floor is really nice. We have a lot of really great vendors, but I'm not a distributor. I don't have warehouses worth of stuff that people, I'm like,
Right.
and I don't think they know that. They're like, I don't know who salontraining.com is. Like you said, they have no idea who it's one person. But I did listen and I said, all right, we got to figure this out somehow. So PA Beauty Supply was a great. Cosmo supports the show. They're not in the show as far as they can't legally or whatever. But PA Beauty Supply, they are wonderful. They're bringing in a ton of stuff like hair color for $3 for professionals and stuff like that, because they can buy all this different color off of people when they're switching them out. And so they have warehouses and warehouses of stuff they're bringing. So the ticket alone, just to be able to go into there, even one of the classes is well worth the price. I mean, you got people
Exactly.
doing, we have someone come in and doing, you can get certified in this one company's extensions at the show just by taking it, and then they certify you right immediately after on a mannequin head. So I know people say like, oh, I'm not certified in extensions yet, I don't know how to do this technique. We have lots and lots of different classes, social media and marketing. We have a salon owners session that's just for salon owners to say like, what's happening, where are these people at, how do we hire good help, how do we keep good help, how do we market, stuff like that. So but yeah, the discount center, it does bring in people, the products bring in people, the education, but I'm with you. Like I am all about, if I could sit in a class and learn one new thing to take and it makes me 500 more dollars that week, awesome. You know,
I always say, and not everyone listens, but some do, education is the one thing that you put money out for that pays you back plus. Like you can get a dress to go to a wedding, and as soon as you wear it to the wedding, the value of the dress just went down if you're going to resell it or do anything else with it. A car, as soon as you drive a car off the lot, it goes down in value by $5,000 within 5 minutes. Education, people will say, I don't have the money. My boss isn't going to send me. Like you said, they're not taking responsibility. And I tell people, whether you are a commission employee, a booth renter, a chair renter, a solo suite, whatever your situation is, you have to have an entrepreneur's mindset. You have to take charge of that square space that you're in doing hair, whatever that looks like, whether it's in, a she shed in your yard, legal, I hope, because there's a lot of those popping up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's stop blaming the person that you work for or work with to feed you with clientele, with technique, with all the things, and start taking responsibility and stop, you know, complaining on a social media site. "Oh, I'm so slow." And my kids, I don't know if I think you know what my kids do. They have My Salon Concierge and they specialize in marketing for hair salons, period. That's all they do. And when Jack does a sales call, 9 out of 10 people, when they're hanging up, they say, I can't afford to do this. I'm going to wait. Circle back and check in with me 6 months from now. And he says, think about how much further along in 6 months you will be if you take that leap now. If you have, 50%, if you need 50% more clients in your chair, if you're only 50% booked and you say, I can't afford this marketing, you can't. You're not making that up. You can't because you don't have those clients. But unless you take that leap and stretch yourself, borrow it off a parent, a cousin, a whatever, like do whatever you have to sell your car, do whatever you have to do, because once those clients come in and you do an amazing job on their hair, they are a client every 4 to 6 weeks for the next, hopefully, God willing, 5+ years moving forward. And it more than pays you back. It's
Absolutely.
this fear of being stuck and just staying in the same position because it's like the devil that you know, right? Well, I already know what it looks like when I'm not busy. But most of these people that he's talking to are suite owners. So they're paying rent and having no clients come in. I just watched a movie last night on Netflix with Vince Vaughn. It was called The Nonas. And it was about him opening a restaurant and nobody comes to this restaurant. Like, no matter what he does, nobody will come. So it doesn't matter that you have the best decor and your suite is the nicest and you have the best throw pillows and the best refreshments or whatever it is. If you don't have clients coming through your door, and even more important in relation to your show, if they come in the door and you're not prepared technique wise and education wise to handle what's coming in. Somebody just said to me, they called the salon, I happened to be there, and they're like, does Sarah have a time for a haircut? I want a 70s haircut. And I was like, thank God I'm not behind the chair because I wouldn't even know what that meant. I pictured Farrah Fawcett, but I don't even know if that was 70s. I don't know. But I was like, oh crap, what is a 70s cut? So if you're not updating your education, the wolf cut, all these names, all these techniques, balayage, voyage, all the things, if you went to beauty school like I did in 1986 and you've never gone to another class again, you are getting left behind. And if you're my age, I'm 58. So for the most part, our clients tend to be 5 to 10 years senior to us, so clients are 68, 78. They're starting to pass. They're starting to pass away. And you have to replace that clientele. And you're not going to replace them if you're not staying relevant and you're not staying educated. At the minimum, going to Tracey's show once a year and making that your annual thing will change the whole trajectory of your career because you're going to pick up something that Gino's going to say, or Philip and Mary with the combs and brushes with that amazing haircut technique that's so quick. I did their one class and I had it on a big screen TV. I did it virtually and I was like, this is amazing. It used to take me an hour and a half to do a Vidas Assume Bob. Philip has you doing it in, 25 minutes.
Yes.
So timing, efficiency, all of those things. And you're ticking all the boxes. You have all the people and all the things all in under one roof.
There was a lady, her name's Kel Grace. I just met her. Do you know her? She's a trader.
Say it again. You kind of got interrupted.
Her name's Kel Grace.
Cal Grace, no.
Okay, so Kel Grace, I've heard of her briefly just right before this, and got to see her in Chicago. She teaches updos, 4 updos, or she teaches an updo in 4 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, it's probably.
Whoa.
She,
Where was
and
she in the 90s for me?
I know, right? And she is fabulous. But you know how like updos weren't, they were really popular and then it's half up, half down. Updos are actually starting to make a swing back, they're saying, and I can see it. And even she'll show you how to do the updos that are half up, half down and different things like this. But I was like, 4 minutes, I don't know. I'm going to have to go down to Chicago and see this. So I drove to Chicago and I went in her room and it was packed. You could not get in. There was nowhere to even wiggle room to get into her room. She was packed, like insane. So she's teaching on our main stage, and she has a vendor booth. And literally, whenever you say about, if you're not knowing some of this stuff, you are going to get left behind, because some of the stuff she was showing, I was like, oh my gosh, like her. And there's another lady, her name's Becky. She's not in our industry. She's, I believe, the only one that's coming that's not in the actual beauty industry, but I wanted her very badly because she's going to be there on Monday. And she actually was from Pittsburgh. So what part of Pennsylvania were you at? And you told me, but where was it?
Right outside Philadelphia, Philadelphia
Philadelphia.
suburbs.
Okay. So she has all of her articles all through, the newspapers and stuff around here. But she would take businesses that were on the bank of bankruptcy, ready to hit the button to say, like, I can't do this anymore. And she'd come in and she got them within a year to be like $1 million restaurant and different industries and stuff.
Wow.
She's amazing. And I just talked to her this morning, and she said, I'm going to be giving away a couple things at the show for this industry. Her daughter is a barber. She goes, I see how hard this industry works now that she was helping out her daughter with something. And she's like, my daughter works hard, And so she's doing a lot of marketing, basically what you had said a few minutes ago, like, how do you get your clients? Where do you get your client? That kind of stuff. And do you book them online when you're sleeping? And she does that with like the new SEO, like the front desk, if someone calls in the middle of the night, they can. And she's teaching a lot of really important stuff that's coming up in the industry. So, and just in
That's
business, I should say, whether you're a stylist or a salon owner.
awesome. I think part of the problem, and I get a lot of heat because I'm always throwing shade on beauty school, and it's not that the beauty school is to blame because it's government things. They only have a certain amount of time. It's the whole system is just so broken. I don't even know who to blame. But what I've heard multiple times that like kills me to hear is that a lot of instructors in beauty schools are discouraging their students from getting apprenticeships. They're telling them, don't shampoo for somebody else, go right into a suite and build your business. I'm like, that is so irresponsible and such bad advice, in my opinion, because it's one thing to go into a salon and get, a guaranteed hourly rate and watch people that are 20 years ahead of you, how they're dealing with a late client, how they're dealing with a no-show, how they're dealing with someone who just lost a spouse or a child or a parent, loss, grief, all the things. We're not prepared for that when we come out of beauty school with our little wobbly newborn deer legs. We're just not. It's not possible for us to get all that in school. And they're saying, don't work for anybody else, go right into a suite. And then I shouldn't say everybody, it's not an absolute, but in a lot of forums are these people that are drowning in debt from suite rent because they don't have the client base that they need it to get started. And they're shocked that they don't have them. And I'm like, and then they want the instant fix, and they'll reach out to my kids and say, I need your marketing, I need clients. But what my kids are finding is they're not good at hair. They're getting them the client, but the client's not coming back. And the reviews are awful because they didn't take the time to go to your show or another show and get the foundational education to serve that client that will come back. It's almost like there's so many steps that people are trying to skip over. And that's what really fires me up. And that's what I get on my soapbox. I'm like, put education first. Education always first, then marketing, branding, all the things. Because, I can send you 17 clients tomorrow, but if you don't know how to formulate and a lot of education, I think you'll agree, Tracey, in the last 5 years has been very technique driven, very like where to put the foil, but not what color to put in the foil. And you can have a technique and you can do it spot on perfect. But if you didn't know what the natural level is, know the porosity, density, all the things, then you open up the foil and it's in the right spot, but it's not the right color. And then you're disappointed and the client's disappointed. So you can't skip over any of it. You have to get the whole full package of all of it to be a really successful stylist in 2025 and beyond, for sure.
I 1,000% agree on everything you're saying, because I say it too. It's the same thing. People want to skip steps to get there faster. We all want to get there faster, but you have to learn some of the steps along the way to get there. So.
Yeah. And you end up circling back. I remember when I got out of beauty school, I was so cocky. I was a kitchen beautician for a long time before I even stepped into beauty school. I was just like playing with hair, didn't know what the heck I was doing, and was doing well with it, with, School of Hard Knocks. And then afterwards, I was like, I'm not going and shampooing for somebody. I know what I'm doing. I'm going right into a chair. And after a year of that, I realized how silly that was and had to circle back and go hand somebody foil and tear their foils and shampoo and sweep and all the things. And it was the best thing that I ever did. It was bad for my ego was bruised, but taking that time was the foundation for everything. It's why I was able to open a salon at 22. It's why I was able to become, an educator after I was in the salon world, because I make sure that I find somebody who's doing what I want to do better than I'm doing it. And I make sure that I learn from them. And there's no cost that I will spare in getting the education that I need. So you're carrying that torch for everybody. Now, I know you did say you're doing it every other year now, which makes total sense with how big of a project it is. So I want to make sure that we stress that don't, just like I said with my kids, don't wait 6 months to get the marketing that you could have been busy 6 months, from now. Don't wait on the show because it's, a week away. It's very easy to get there. It's very easy to get a ticket. Tracey's going to share with you how to get a ticket. But don't keep saying, I'm going to, I'm going to, I'm going to. Don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today, this week, next month. We all know how that works. We all know how the New Year's resolution, how quickly we forget the resolution by now, by May. So
Yes.
how can they get tickets to this amazing show, Tracey?
So they can go right onto our website, salontraining.com. And it's right on the homepage. It says get tickets. Or if you're going with a group of 10 or more, you can purchase right on there and do the group tickets. There is the class brochure is there too. So it's right in the front. So you can see all the classes. There's over 100 classes. And I get this question often is they say, oh, do I have to register for all the classes? No, it's a one ticket. It's $79. I don't think we could make this any
Oh, wow.
any more reasonable. And we had early bird specials at 49, 47 or something. And then we went to 59 and 79 or something like that. It does go to 99 actually on the end of Monday at 11:59 Monday. So $99 still. If you look at the classes, even one of those classes is well worth
Absolutely.
$100, and you can go in anytime. So we run them every hour on the hour. So there's 11, 12, 13 classes going on at a time. So you can go in and say from 9 to 10, I want to go into this. It's a nail class or a color class or an updo class or social media or whatever. And then there's a half-hour break. Everybody leaves and then they can go into next classroom. And like I said, this particular year on Sunday, we have that 2-hour break. So you can enjoy lunch and you can go shopping. You can do the vendor floor. There's actually, just like every other show too, there's a lot of education on the vendor floor too. Like whenever you're in those particular things, talking to them, I know people are doing stuff right at their booth as well. So
Nice. Well, it sounds amazing. I will be getting my butt there next year for
well,
sure.
I'm not
I'm
having it
sorry, not next year, next time, I should say, not next year.
we are working on some things that might be in a smaller chunk for the year that we skip. So,
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I do think really intimate things are good as well. That's what I'm doing right now. We're doing a 50-person event in September in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. So I
oh,
think
what is
getting
that like?
together in small groups,
What
it's
is
called Beauty in the Burbs. I'll send you the info on that.
cool?
Yeah.
What's the dates?
September, I think it's the 22nd. I wasn't prepared to talk about that. Hold
Sorry.
on. That's okay.
Like, oh, something
Uh,
else in Pennsylvania. Very cool. Because we can
yes.
actually share that at the show. Like another thing that's coming
Oh,
up.
that would be awesome. Yeah. September 22nd and 23rd.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll share the link in the show notes in case somebody just heard that and said, what? So yeah, we're about half committed right now and we're only taking 50 people. So it is going to be an intimate event, but again, great educators and for serious, no mimosas before class. This is for people who want serious education for sure.
Nice. Good.
Well, thank you for your time, Tracey. I'm excited for your show, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you. And I wish you all the luck. It's going to be a great show, just like last time.
Well,
And
thank
everyone listening, get your ticket now and get your buns to the Pennsylvania Beauty Show. You will not be sorry.
you. Tickets are
Thank
available on salontraining.com. And I also forgot to mention Eventbrite. So that's actually where we put them there too. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody, we will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.